regeneration, the cells have to move, otherwise they can't do anything. And we can see how in the cell culture study that we did in Hong Kong, that electrical field actually, electrical flow in the field actually affects cell physiology very, significantly. Okay. Moving on, okay. So I gave you quite a few examples of Western research on Eastern medicine. So now let's go to the second point. Convergence of Western medicine strategies towards philosophy of Eastern medicine. So in the old days, Western medicine diagnosed what's wrong, kill it, cut it out, poison it, burn it, okay. But now, Western medicine is like drifting more towards the Eastern type of philosophy of like heal the whole person, treat the whole person rather than just treat, the joke, two surgeons came out of the operating room and said, well, that operation was a big success, too bad the patient died, So, but, Chinese doctors never would say that. So, first of all, to heal the whole person, you cannot have a single powerful drug hitting a single target because the person has so many organs and tissues and functions. Okay, so Western medicine started out as like a single drug, single target strategy. Okay, you have a bacterial infection, I give you an antibiotic. Bang, kill all the bacteria, you're good. Okay, right? So. But for more complex problems like diabetes, there's no single target, okay? What are you going to do? So, a multi-drug, multi-target strategy is a lot more useful when you talk about healing the whole person rather than just solve the problem in the short term. So, like illustrated here, okay? We're talking about herbal medicine. Herbal medicine, very complex. Many different herbs. Each herb has many different compounds, chemicals in there. Many things in there. When you take aspirin, that's salicylic acid, okay? Or if you take antibiotic, the oxycycline as a single compound. But here, you have many different, compounds in a mixture of herbs. So these guys could attack a single target from like many different angles, or they could affect many different targets, okay? So, a multi-drug, multi-targeting approach, okay, is what Chinese medicine is all about. So typically, okay, in the Chinese herbal formula, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different herbs all mixed together, and you put this in water or alcohol, and soak it or boil it, extract many chemicals out, okay, and this would be like here, many chemicals, hitting many targets. But it's not that simple. There's rhyme and reason to this, okay? In a typical herbal formula, you have the imperial herb, Jun, okay? This is the main herb, okay? Sometimes even toxic by itself, okay? This has the main powerful action. And then you have the minister sun, okay? This will augment and promote the action of the main ingredient, serving the emperor. And then you have a few assistant herbs, okay? Because some of these may be like, toxic, okay? The assistant herb may like reduce the toxicity, okay, of the main ingredient. And you also have servant, okay? Coordinates the actions of the different herbs, like, affecting the pH, the solubility, and things like that. So it's not just like, oh, I'll throw everything together, including the kitchen sink. No, there's a strategy on how you throw these things, mix these things in. Oh. Okay, so we collaborated with the Chinese Medicine Institute of Chinese University of Hong Kong, studying something that's really common. Usually this is referred by as Cantonese, 广东话, 地打早, 跌打酒, okay? And these are like, different examples of 地打早, okay? 跌 means falling, 打 means getting hit, 早 means medicinal wine. So you go to any herbal shop, they would have like 10 different brands of 地打早, and they're really effective for, just bruises and sprains and no cuts, okay? Sprains and maybe even minor, micro fracture of the bones and so forth. And these things work quite well. So we studied the literature and came up with like 200 different herbs that, are in use for making up itazao. It's not like every preparation is 200, but like if you count all the possible ones, it's like 200. And then we used computer search to see what are the most common ones. We came down to like 20 herbs seems to be most commonly present in these things. And then finally, by testing, we came up with 3 herbs, only 3 herbs, okay? We call this the simplified 3-herb formula. 红花、竹盾、大黄. These are present in many dietazao, okay? But now we're separating these 3 herbs from everything else, okay? And we want to see quantitatively what do they do or not do to blood flow. Because if you have a bruise, obviously, if you improve blood flow, you carry away the coagulated blood and the waste materials. That's a good thing. You will have swelling. Okay, swelling, improve blood flow. Again, that would be a good thing. So we use laser Doppler, our favorite instrument in the lab, to see whether they would affect blood flow or not. So you see. Here is the control. This is nothing but alcohol. Doesn't do much. Okay, this is an hour of putting on the skin of a normal person. Okay, but interestingly, the 3 herbs by themselves don't do much. Okay, these are the 红花、大黄、竹盾. They don't do much. But when we mix, this and this. Oh, they work well. Mix this and this. Oh, mix this and this. Or mix all 3. Okay. So, incredibly, the single herbs don't work very well. You have to mix them. So probably from hundreds, if not thousands of years of trial and error, people already figure out that you've got to have these together. Okay. And this is a dramatic demonstration of how that herbs have to work together, to work. Just like here, you cannot just have one imperial herb that doesn't work by itself. But when you start to mix them in different proportions, you will get much better effects than this. Then you say, well, why do if you just improve blood flow, is that it? Okay, what's so magical about that? So our collaborators in Hong Kong measured in different ways. They found that when you have all 3, they have anti-inflammatory action. That's good. If you have microfracture, it accelerates bone growth and also improve blood flow by angiogenesis. These are based on measurements in the test tube or in cell culture. So these 3 when mixed together can explain, why it would do very well in decreasing swelling and bruising and maybe even mending bones. Okay, a different example. Okay, just now we were just simply adding 1 to 1, 1 to 1. Okay, but you can add things 2 to 1 or 5 to 1 by weight or by volume. Okay, not just add together. So our colleagues at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, Professor Jin, okay, he studied a very simple formula. This is 当归补血汤. Okay, this has been used for like 700 or 800 years by women. Okay, it has like a hormonal action. Okay, for women's problem, but we can go back 800 years and see that the formula is always, 5 part Wangji, 1 part Dangui, 5 part Dangui, 1 part, no, I'm sorry, 1 part Dangui, 5 part Wangji is always calling for this ratio. So you might argue, well, why 5 to 1? Maybe 10 to 1 is better, okay? Maybe 1 to 1 is better, right? So, but this is something we could test, because this has hormonal action. We can measure hormonal action in the test tube, okay, very accurately. So they found that if you mix them 1 to 1, or 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, 7 to 1, 10 to 1, and so forth, they work best at 5 to 1. By trial and error, through hundreds of years of trial and error, they already figure out 5 to 1 is the best, okay? And you can prove that in a sophisticated, assay in a test tube, that 5 to 1 gives you the best results. It's not too much the better or too little the better. Simple thing, okay? So don't mess with the optimal concentration and the ratio. Another example, our close friend Tommy Zheng at Yale Medical School. Also on this, multi-drug, multi-targeting effect. We'll finish this and we'll have a break. So Tommy started with a simple idea. Cancer patients undergoing radiation therapy, chemotherapy, they suffer serious side effects of nausea. Okay, in fact, sometimes how much dosage they can get is limited by how much they tolerate the nauseating side effects. So Tommy then just thought that, there's a Chinese formula that had been used for hundreds of years ago for suppressing nausea. So why don't we just give this Chinese herbal formula to these patients and just make them feel better? Yes, they feel better. They also live longer. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So what he found was that, in fact, this Chinese herbal formula could improve chemotherapy, not just by reducing side effects, but improve the chemotherapy effectiveness itself. And this is shown here, okay. This is done on animal with tumors they could measure and so forth. So, first of all, the control is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 weeks, the tumor grew fat, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, as should be expected. Okay, this is in mice. When they just feed the mice this herbal formula, it doesn't do anything. Okay, so it's not the formula, it's also killing the tumor. It doesn't do anything. CPT11, okay, is a standard chemotherapy drug. it works pretty well for the first week, and then the tumor takes off, unfortunately. But when you mix CPT11 and the herbal formula, the tumor doesn't grow nearly as fast. So it seems like this herbal formula has two effects, suppresses nausea side effects and makes the chemotherapy more effective. So the Yale people thought, oh, we struck a gold mine, we're gonna make a pill out of this and make billions of dollars, okay? But first we have to separate and see what's going on. This formula has 4 different herbs. Unfortunate for them, okay, when you have all 4 herbs, it does very well in reducing side effects and enhancing chemotherapy. But as you can see, when they leave out A or B or C or D, it doesn't work. Okay, you just need all 4. So you cannot take one out and just say, I make a pill out of it. The Chinese people figured out a long time ago that you have to mix them in this ratio and so forth. Now, you might ask, what's the magic action here that makes the herb, enhance chemotherapy? Actually, it's kind of a common mechanism. This herbal mixture suppresses a natural occurring system in your body that will get rid of poison. Okay, our body has also mechanisms of clearing the body of poison, and in this case, this herbal medicine suppresses that system, so that the chemotherapy medicine, which is a poison, okay, stays around longer. It's not excreted out of the body. The herb allows the drug to stay in the body at a higher concentration. But you say, well, then why don't you just take more drug? Yeah, take more drug, you get more nausea. But in this case, it suppresses the nausea. So it works very well that it will enhance chemotherapy without increasing side effects. So that's the story to that. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break, okay, and we'll come back.
Okay.